April 15th, 2019, at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber. Tonight, the prayer will be offered by City Clerk Patricia Pietzu, and the pledge will be offered by June Karen.
Almighty God, we have the high honor and serious duty to manage the affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with a spirit of unity and understanding, which enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all our fellow citizens. So help us, God. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Gidge. Alderman Harriet Gathright. Alderman Dowd.
Present.
Alderman Clee. Here. Alderman Laws. Alderman Lopez.
Here.
Alderman Karen.
Here.
Alderwoman Kelly. Here. Alderman Jettie.
Here.
Alderwoman Malizi Gola. Alderman Tenza.
Present.
Alderman Schmidt.
Here.
Alderman Clemmons.
Here.
Alderman Wilshire.
Here.
We have 12 members present.
I did hear from Alderwoman Melissa Golia that she was unable to join us this evening. I will turn this special meeting over to Alderman Dowd, who is chair of the Budget Committee.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. We're going to have a public hearing this evening on R 19-127, authorizing the mayor and the city treasurer to issue bonds not to exceed the amount of $2,800,000 for police department heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system, high vac, and window improvements. Whoever's going to present a little overview, please come up. And do we want the city treasurer?
Bless you.
Is it- Okay, only if you have questions. Yep. Huh? No, it's for the bonding. For both. I don't know.
So guess what I'm going to do?
Mike, we get it the screen down. Get the
Screen. Oh, good. The mic came on right when I said that. You got it? Okay. I do it all the time.
Even when he doesn't want to.
Does it with such style.
It takes a second to warm up. Okay. While you're waiting, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to introduce myself, Deputy Chief Michael Kerrigan with the Nashville Police Department, and I have with me Captain David Bailey, who's in charge of the Services Bureau, who's been working on this project as well.
Okay, all right. Should be able to click on your presentation. And if you can make it right, the full screen next to the 107%,
You cannot see
right-hand corner. Oh, over, no,
this one.
nope, over, there. Hit that one.
All right. Thank you. I can't see from this angle.
Mark right there.
Folks, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to come up here and speak tonight. This is a project that is long overdue, and it's critically important for the Nashville Police Department. Many of you were able to come to the police department and see firsthand some of the problems we've had with this Windows project and HVAC system project. So I'm going to give you a little overview, basically what the problem is, the status of where we stand, and what we're looking to do. If you have any questions, myself or Captain Bailey would be happy to answer them. We have detailed information from several different reporting sources. We'll start with the Windows project, which has already had a bid from D.L. King accepted in the amount of $134,500. In 1979, when the Nashville Police Department main building was built, we had windows installed at that time, which are now 40 years old. Some of those, when we had a 1999, an addition was put on the police department. Several of the windows that were taken out of the old building were put in the new building and repurposed. 47 of those windows are currently failing. I'm going to show you some pictures as we go through. In one of our locker rooms, you can see on the left-hand side of the window, there's a large gap in that window, 1/4 of an inch wide, and it's condensation, moisture, and snow get in all the time, and it's ruining all the sheetrock. We've had to replace it several times. This is another area of the locker room. Again, you can see the window falling apart, all the sheetrock and stuff getting damaged up in there. This is one of the windows, one of the original windows in the Detective Bureau. As you can see, there's about a 1/2 to 3/4 inch gap on the left-hand side. We've had to have duct tape. Throughout every winter, we duct tape them, try to keep the winds from blowing in. We've had detectives along that whole side of the building, which is the north side of the building, have to put their coats on when they're in their cubicles typing because it's been so cold, the cold air is blowing in. And the professional standards, which also faces north, these were some of the newer portion of the building that they repurposed old windows to. You can see the window on the left, anytime it snows, snow comes in that window, and as they come in the morning, they've got a big pile of snow on their dash inside the room. So these windows, we had a heat escape program done, or project done. You can see the windows on the left, the older windows, the amount of energy that they're giving out, the heat that's, energy that's coming out of those windows, as opposed to the new ones on the right. Those look a lot less energy is escaping out, and we will get back to what that means in a couple of minutes. So we're looking for 47 windows that were originally built in 1979, to be replaced. And again, that bid has already been put out and accepted from D.L. King in the amount of $134,500. The windows that we're installing will be the same design and the same type that were added into the 1999 edition. Now, before I go on to the HVAC system, is there any questions on the windows? Okay.
Yes, Alderman Cleve?
Just a question. Did you say that was $134,000 for the replacement of those windows?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
But on here it says $160,000, not that I'm quibbling over that little, I mean, here it says window replacement, $160,000 for 20 years on the ordinance.
Is that for the disposal,
I should say resolution.
Captain Bailey?
Oh, maybe the 160 is the 134 plus the disposals. Would that be correct?
Could be, it could be, and I could confirm that for you.
Okay, thank you. That's fine.
I just want to say that I went over and witnessed the building, and I told them we were going to buy them some shovels with the amount of snow that gets in during the winter. So, yeah, it's in really bad shape with these windows. Alderman Kelly.
Thank you. Clearly, we need to replace these. Snowing inside does not make any sense. I was just wondering, I know you showed us the heat map. Do you have any idea of how much you'll save in cost in terms of heating and efficiency once putting these new windows in?
So when we started the project, or restarted the project a couple months ago, the mayor had asked us to do this. However, he had asked us after the project had already been sent out to bid. So instead of spending the money to do the energy study, we knew they needed to be done, so we opted to keep moving forward with the plan that we had. I am going to discuss a study in 2011, a energy efficiency study. I'll show you some of the results. That's at the end of the slide presentation right here. So we'll get back to it, and if you have some more questions, we'll get them answered.
Be patient. Thank you.
Additionally, the savings would be hard to calculate since part of this project is replacing the entire HVAC system. So there's going to be a huge savings with a new, more efficient HVAC system as well. So the overall savings will be far exceeded just fixing the windows.
Thank you. The second and probably the more important part of this project is the replacement of the HVAC system. Again, in 1999, several things were starting to fail as the building got 20 plus years old. And we have what we call a mechanical room. And I'll get back to the pictures in a minute. This is part of our mechanical room. This is original to the building in 1977, and it has been operating since the same manner since then. It is old and outdated and in continuous disrepair. As you can see, the blue in the back upper right-hand corner, that is part of the HVAC system that manages the airflow in our gun range, our firing range, which is downstairs right below this area, and I'll discuss that in a minute. So in 1977, when the system began to fail, a project was developed to replace it. That mechanical room was cut out of the project because it was too expensive. Instead, they opted to install hot water pumps. Heat water pumps?
Yep,
Yeah.
Just a correction, I think you said 1977, in 2005 you meant.
For the,
When they cut that out of the replacement, the 2005 upgrades to the HVAC system, that was originally on there. And then the city asked to cut that out, so that was cut out with the agreement with the mayor at the time, which, if I'm not mistaken, was Streeter, that we would come back in the near future and seek additional funding to replace that.
Okay, so that has yet to be replaced. And as a result of that, that room is still operating. However, we had one piece of equipment out on the roof that had failed at that time, and that was also part of the system that was not to be replaced. That has never been replaced, and without that system, it's forcing the heat water source pumps, which are operating throughout the system, to do all of the work that's designed to do only half of the work. It's putting a lot of stress on them, and those are starting to break now. Also should be noted that every piece of HVAC equipment, with the exception of the 2 heat water source pumps we've replaced, are operating off R22 refrigerant, which in the year 2020 will no longer be available to purchase, and that is going to be an issue throughout the city that's going to have to be addressed. So different portions of this mechanical room are breaking down. The mechanical room operates the airflow in our gun range, as I was talking about earlier. What we started to find, one of the driving forces to fix this problem, is that several of our range officers had elevated lead levels. So we've had different companies come in and test the lead throughout the range. We've had to go through an extensive cleaning, and part of the problem was identified, and there are a couple of reports which you should all have. The airflow in that gun range is not properly designed for what the officer's environment is now as they train. It's a single system that pushes the air across down the range back into the officers' faces as they're going through their training. We do use lead-free ammunition. However, there is still lead fragments in the primers and in the bullets as they're hitting into the back wall. So we had that evaluated, and we had a mechanical report completed by a company called SMRT, and they identified each of the parts that were failing and which needed to be replaced, and some of these parts were 20 years past life. And just a couple of pictures to show you the age of the building. Several of these systems are run off of fan belts, and they're constantly breaking, they're constantly falling off, and if you're not doing daily inspections, you're going to miss that they're going off, and again, they'll be running at less efficiency. The last thing I want to address to you is to answer your question, Alderman Kelly. In 2011, the City of Nashua did a energy use study relative to efficiency and assessment. You'll notice in the green highlighted area that the Nashua Police Department in 2011 was operating at 15% efficiency. The next highest, I believe, was 40 to 42%, if I'm not mistaken. So back in 2011, we were operating at 15%. We haven't made any changes, so I would imagine that that number has gone significantly down. And that's the situation that we're at now. We're asking for the entire system to be replaced based on the reports of the SMRT. Yes, sir.
Alderman Lopez.
So basically, we're wasting taxpayer money running a very inefficient system, and we're potentially affecting the health of our officers who are practicing their aim. So that's another good place for them to be. And your windows can be described as being a pain.
Correct. Correct.
That's why we have.
Other questions?
Here.
Alderman Clee.
First off, yes, I agree with Alderman Lopez that it does need to be replaced. And I'm really concerned over the officers testing high on lead levels, and that being something caused by this building, a very unhealthy building, it sounds like to me. How many officers were there? One is too many, so let me start with that.
So we have 3 range officers, 3 full-time range officers, one that had cycled out throughout this the more recent process. Each of the 4 had elevated lead levels. One of the officers was at a point where we almost had to pull him out of his position and not allow him to be on the range. Now, I would also like to say that that's, the issue with the airflow in there, in the lead contamination was not 100% based on the HVAC system. That system was blowing that air back in them, potentially being potentially dangerous for them. But that range is also original to the building. It had never been deep cleaned. So we had to hire a company, which we did within our own budget, to come in and clean all of the, we had to clean all the filters. We had to repaint. We had to strip down the walls, take out the floor, redo the floor, repaint everything, pull the ceiling down. So we had to do a lot of a deep clean in that range, which had never been done. We're hoping that, in addition to stripping out a lot of the stuff, we don't have room in the building to put a lot of the stuff that we had on the range that we use for training. We've had to find other places for them. We can tuck them in the garage. We put them outside in a different closet. So by taking all the material out there, we take out stuff that can contain and hold on to that lead material. And we've changed it to a lot of stainless steel and non-porable surfaces to not hold the lead. Put tape strips down that you can take the lead off the shoes as they're exiting. So we've made several changes that were recommended by a company that specifically does ranges to help curb those lead levels. But the airflow system in there is not pushing that back in an environment that keeps it to them.
Follow up, Alderman Cleve?
Yeah, that was kind of what my second question was. So when it was pushing the air back into them, was that air cycling into other areas of the station, of the
So we
of
had
the house, so to speak?
to answer the question simply is no. We had there's a pretty heavy secure door that closes that range off, and it's soundproof, so it's pretty tightly sealed, so that airflow is not getting pushed throughout the building. In 1977, we had much different tactics. We would basically stand on a static line. The targets would move forward, back and forth, and the officers would just shoot at the targets as they were moving. The training nowadays is a lot different. I know the chief has talked quite extensively on how well we train and how important it is that we train, and using best practices and modern techniques. We now have the targets. We engage the targets are static at the end, and we move back and forth to it. And some of our training includes moving forward, moving back, moving sideways, up in front of cover. So it's no longer feasible to stand there. And the way that airflow goes, there's only one blower that sucks and pushes the air, and it's constantly pushing it into the officers. So now just the way we do our training now, it's inefficient. And if we need to change the system, now's the time to do the range portion as well.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Alderman Tenza.
Just a couple questions. First, assuming this bond goes through, are you going to need any extra space or have to lease space other places so that the normal routine operations of the police department go on as per usual?
Well, if you're I guess the assumption would be that this old system is pretty old and pretty big and cumbersome. I'm assuming that a new system would be a little bit more efficient, a little bit more smaller.
And I'm thinking, excuse me for cutting you off, but I'm thinking like while the work is going on, I can imagine it would be difficult to have them completely overhauling the HVAC system or even windows and still have the normal. I mean, you guys are running 24/7 over there at the building, so it's not like there's a lot of downtime.
I believe the time frame of the window project is around fall of 2019, because we've already had the bid put in. So that's the optimal time for them to put in windows, and we'll be prepared to provide officers to or civilian personnel to stand by while they do it. The HVAC system would be much longer down the road because we would have to get the designs created and studied. So we're looking at about a 25 to 27 week turnaround time for them to get the designs complete and to be able to put the project out to bid. So they would be done in different sections. We would, there's going to be times where we're going to have to shut down operations in different areas. Our gun range, we will know ahead of time what we'll need to shut down, and we'll just plan accordingly. We had to shut down for almost a month to clean the range, and we just did different sets of training. We qualified before and after, and we just worked around our systems that we just have to make do. And it's important, so we'll make it work.
Follow up, Alderman Tenza.
Yes, thank you. It just specifically on the gun range and having it be within the police department, within that building specifically. I mean, has there been thought to either having some place that's off-site that's not necessarily as contained as the gun range at the National Police Department? I mean, has that been thought of? Because that's regardless of the HVAC system, right? If you're shooting bullets in there, there's going to be a lot of lead floating around in the air, not just that room, but potentially the rest of the building.
There's a couple different things we can cover to answer your question. We've transitioned in this next round of ammunition that we purchased, given that we've transferred guns over to 9mm. We're buying now completely lead-free rounds that even the primers no longer carry that lead product in them. Having these range at the station allows us to bring officers in for what we call quick hitter training, meaning we're not going to spend a full day and tie up overtime on this training. If we have a certain issue we can cover, we'll bring them in off the street, put them down the range, engage in an exercise, and then they can go right back on the street. So they may be off the street for 20 to 25 minutes as opposed to a full 8-hour shift. Another option is an outdoor range, like say at the landfill. NASA's pretty limited to where you want bullets flying outside of a building. We do our rifle training, we do our high caliber weapons training elsewhere at Hudson ranges. We did look into whether or not it would be economically feasible to outsource our range training and do stuff. But with the amount of officers that we have and the amount of training that we do, to get either a private range or an outdoor range, they wouldn't be able to schedule us the amount of times that we would need it. And they know a lot of those private ranges have rules that don't conform to our shooting, the tactics that we're using and we're trying. Like we say, we do a lot of moving, we do a lot of engaging targets before we have to engage in shooting, a lot of physical activity to get the heart rate up. So there's a lot more to it that a lot of those ranges for insurance purposes would not allow us to do. You're welcome.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You want to stay there in case question comes up. Also, if we have any questions relative to the bonding itself, Treasurer Fredette is here. But I'm going to start the public testimony. So I'm now going to hear testimony in favor of R 19-127. Seeing none. Testimony in opposition to R 19-127. Seeing none. Once again, testimony in favor of R 19-127. Seeing none. Testimony in opposition. Seeing none. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion by Alderman O'Brien to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll be taking this.